Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. This is Timothy Michael Campbell, author, speaker, consultant, and I am excited that you are watching this. I want you to mark your calendars March 2nd, or excuse me, March 1st, for the book release. I wrote a book. It's called Absurd, a parable of one man's journey to discovering his purpose. It's written in a storyline format. It's a fictional book about a man named Samuel who discovers his purpose through by visiting a kingdom. And in this kingdom, he's introduced to the bottle experience. And the bottle is symbolic of a comfort zone, is a place of protection that he stays in. It's a place of protection, it's a comfort zone, but it's also a place that kills ideas and it prevents purpose from being birthed. At the same time, it is what an individual needs to birth purpose. So get the book, mark your calendar. You can pre-order now at timothymichaelcampbell.com, timothymichaelcampbell.com. Go there, read about the book, and pre-order your copy. You will get the physical copy March 1st for the book launch. We'll have it'll be open to the public March 1st so that you can purchase my new book, Absurd. Okay, now I don't want to hold you any longer. Let's get to the interview. Welcome, everybody, to this broadcast. I am elated to have with us Prophetess Latonya. Latonya, welcome to this interview. I'm so glad that you joined me today. And we got a lot to talk about. We're talking about purpose. So I just launched this book, Absurd, a parable of a man's journey to discovering his purpose. And the reason why I wrote it is because I believe that God has individuals hidden for this season. This year is the year of birth. We're going to be birthing purpose. And there are individuals that are listening to this that they know that they are called to do something in the earth. They know that purpose is inside of them. But the idea of what they're supposed to be doing is absurd. And that means wildly unreasonable, illogical, inappropriate. And what it does is it puts a bottle around the idea, puts the bottle around the purpose where they don't fully come out. And so I'm excited to speak with you, Prophetess Latonya, about purpose because you are a woman of purpose. You have so many things going, and I'm going to let you talk about some of the things that you have going and what the audience should know about you. But when it comes to purpose, you are a woman of purpose, and you have birthed a lot of ideas. You have accepted your calling, and you're moving in this earth. So why don't you just take a few moments and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going?
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much, Tim, for allowing me to share in this journey with you with launching your book. One of the things that I do really appreciate is the fact that you are a man, a gentleman, and you are a king in the earth, that you are taking your apostolic role, not just even so in the church, but you're doing it now outside of the four walls of the church. One thing about it, Tim, that I'm excited about this book that you're doing, for men in particular, I believe it is something that will transcend genres. I believe that is something, after reading the book and doing those things, I believe that is something that it is going to gravitate to young men and old men. Yeah. I believe that you have really written and crafted a timeless work. But what I'm excited about is when you talk about absurd, and I know I'm supposed to be explaining myself, but you know what? I'm so excited about your book. But what I'm excited about is absurd, because let me tell you something, Tim. This book is going to bless the dope boy on the corner.
Yes.
This book is going to bless the man that's in the prison cells.
Yes.
This book is going to bless the young man that has grown up without a father.
Yes.
You know, I used to be a trap queen, and so I used to date dope boys, and so it would be absurd for you to be able to tell him that he could get a degree. It would be absurd for you to tell him that his life could not move outside of pushing keys, outside of running behind cars to sell dime bags. It would seem absurd to him. It would seem absurd to a man who is sitting in a prison cell, in more fear than not that he's going to be released into a society that really is not going to accept him. But I believe that you have created something just so timeless. And I'm just excited to see about where this book will travel and the insight that God would give you for this book to travel for that.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that. And so I'm Latonya C. Smith. And so I have been a nurse for 25 years, certified health coach for 7 years. And what caused me to embark on being a health coach was that I was working in oncology, GYN oncology. And we were starting to see patterns. We were starting to see where women, whole bloodlines were dying from really lack of knowledge. Dying from what they were eating, were dying from lack of knowledge, and they were dying from uterine cancer. And uterine cancer, for the most part, is preventable because it really deals with the amount of estrogen just circulating in the bloodstream because of obesity. The heavier you are as a woman, the more estrogen you have circulating in your system. And so I divinely decided that, you know what, I wanted to be on the proactive side of health. Even the physician that I was working for at the time, who did not profess Christianity, cussed like a sailor.
Wow.
But one thing he said that struck my attention, Tim, he said 80% of the illnesses that and we encounter in our body, he said, including cancer, he said, God has so perfectly designed the body to heal itself. Mm-hmm. But when we don't eat right and we don't exercise, we get stressed out, we don't live according to how God has wanted us to live, we deal with all these encumbrances and the body can't heal itself. So that's a part of the work that I do. So I do have a business that is Jules Wellness Concepts as well. So I'm at JulesWellness.com. I'm at JulesWellness.org. Okay. And so my newest baby, as Tim and I were talking about, is Resurgent International Hubs. Resurgent International Hubs. And so I'm excited about that because that is actually it's actually a phoenix. And so I can't wait to release the logo, but it's actually the phoenix of my life. We're literally being just dormant. And writing an ebook that is going to kind of segue into Resurgent, how it was birthed and how it was launched. The ebook is called The Diary of a Mad Intercessor When It All Fell Apart. So I'm dealing with it. Listen, y'all probably will never hear the stuff again. Now, if y'all don't get the book, the ebook, y'all won't know it. But I'm gonna tell y'all one thing: it's dealing with, Tim, back in October when my husband sucker punched me and said he wanted a divorce after 16 years. And so, just now, as I'm sitting here with you, going through the process of that, but then God still wants you to live, and God still wants you to move, and so I'm doing that as well. Also something that's called I4 Networks as well, which is more of a marketplace anointing, where we're dealing with social innovation and we're dealing with public advocacy. So we're looking at where sociology and psychology, where those things come and they merge together, so that now we can start dealing with things about creative things for energy and creative things for transportation, even education. That's one of my things is education, how we educate our children. So I have a lot of things that are going on. So, just stay tuned.
Yeah. Well, good. Congratulations on all that. You got a lot going on.
Too much going on. See, that's my wall. That's my creativity wall.
I was going to ask you about that. Is that like your vision board or just to keep you organized, or what is that?
This is almost like, I call this my think tank. So these are where dreams come alive over here on this wall. This is actually in my living room, right?
Oh, so, wow.
So this, I have Jules Wellness, and then I have Resurgent, and then I actually have I4. And so what you see behind me is each one of these represent a calendar for each one. So this is my social media calendar, my funnels, my prophetic hub. I got prophetic curriculum over here somewhere. So, and I put it there in my living room because I would have to see it every day.
Have to see it. That's
I
good.
would have to see it every day.
Yeah.
I would have to meditate on it every day. So it forces me to be consistent. But also, Tim, it makes everyone else in my house understand the purpose.
Oh, wow.
And not just
me. Wow. That's so important. The not only that it aligns your day and your focus, but those that are around you. It aligns them as well. So you seem driven. You seem that you have a lot of vision and a lot of purpose and different things. I want to back up a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about the beginning, because this is where you're at right now. But how did you discover that I have all of this inside of me. It's on the board now, but how did you discover and believe that I have all this inside of me and it's going to come out and I'm going to chase it? What was that journey like for you?
Actually, Tim, that journey for me actually started when I was really young. I knew from like the age of 4 or 5 that I always wanted to be a physician. And my goal was I wanted to be like a top, Black female surgeon. And that was always my goal. So I always knew, elementary school, junior high, high school, I was going to go to med school.
Yeah.
So, but what happened was I got pregnant with my oldest son when I was 15, 16 years old. And so that kind of shattered that particular dream because, 30 years ago, they're not doing what they do now for these girls, that there was no, you wouldn't get a scholarship because you was pregnant.
Right.
You didn't get funding because you were pregnant. So that shattered the dream. And so I ended up becoming a nurse. Then that was still some years later, but I always knew that was the capacity that I wanted to flow in, actually was the medical profession. And so I always knew that. And so that was the marketplace side of me that I always knew. I actually didn't understand the spiritual side of me or my spiritual capacity until about 21 years ago. And even then it was just a glimpse and somebody prophesied to me. And the first prophetic word that I had ever received in my life was at work. I worked for Palm Beach County jail system. I was a nurse. I was on the 12th floor delivering meds. And one of the deputy sheriffs who was a minister said, he said, the words that come from your mouth, he said, are going to take care of you. Wow. And I was like, And so at that time, I used to be a praise and worship leader. And so I was like, well, I haven't sung in a couple of years. So I was like, I know that can't, I'm thinking this man missed it. But I had never received a prophetic word before.
Wow.
And then we traveled through the years, and then I become a nurse, and then I began to prophesy. But I was still like this man in this book. I was still in a glass bottle. I was still in my comfort zone. I was still, I was still in that place, because people can put their perception on you.
Oh, wow.
About who they think you are. And because they only have a glimpse of it. They only have a shadow of it. Right. And so I worked with the shadows for as long as I could, but eventually you'll become disenchanted, with the shadow. You'll get tired of that bottle eventually. Yeah. And so, but I knew I knew what I was. I knew what I wanted to be from early ages, but it's just the hiccups that happened along the way. Like you say, to even get here. And there's still some hiccups over here, y'all. There's still hiccups back there too.
Well, but you're unpacking a lot. So I want to go back to this piece of, was there anybody in your family that what made you pick up to be in the physician, in the medical field? Is there somebody you saw? Was there a TV show that triggered it? Or was it just something that was inside of you?
It was totally intrinsic.
Wow.
Totally intrinsic. Mother, father, grandparents, both on both sides of my mother and father from McKenzie, Alabama. So they grew up being sharecroppers' children.
Oh, wow.
My father my father picked tobacco and cotton.
Yeah.
And my mother's parents had livestock.
Oh, wow.
So nothing about medicine, nothing about being a physician, none of that. It was totally imparted by God. Now that part was really, really supernatural. It was totally intrinsic. That was just something that I always wanted to be. Now it could be potentially that at that young age that I did see something and it stuck with me. I won't doubt that. I don't remember that. Yeah. But it was totally intrinsic. Nobody around me was a physician. Nobody around me was a nurse.
Wow. And so the because there's a piece to that where you have you're a healer. It plays into both the natural world and the spiritual world of how medicine and how healing and being a physician, how that plays into who you are and part of your identity. So part of that is being uncovered and it's being matured and now it's being manifested. This is who I am. So you mentioned that okay, so you went into the medical field, and while you're on the job, you received your first prophecy that unlocked another door for you.
Mm-hmm.
So in that prophecy, what was it about it that sparked that identity piece of this is more confirmation of who I am, and what made you listen to it? What made you receive it and say, no, this is really God trying to unlock my identity, my purpose in life?
Well, actually, when I did what probably a lot of people who are listening now got the word. Like I said, that was the first prophetic word that I had ever personally received. I didn't even know what a prophet was. I didn't know what a prophetess was.
Wow.
I grew up Baptist.
Yeah.
We put people out the church for speaking in tongues. We didn't play that. You don't shout around here. We don't do that. So I received that word. So at first I really rejected it. And so that's a part of, that can be a subtle part of self-sabotage that, you talk about in chapter 4, that we can reject, we can reject the prophetic word. And actually that prophetic word is very important, because that's why I'm here today. And that's actually what my ebook is really about too, is because it really is talking about how a powerful prophetic word actually really put me in the gateway of my future. And so when I received that word from him, I wish I could remember his name, but when I received the word from him at that Palm Beach County jail, I rejected it at first. And then God began, and I was pregnant. You know what made me believe the word from him, Tim?
What's that?
I was pregnant with my son, who is now 21, and nobody knew I was pregnant, not even his father. And he said, and now let me tell you about the son that's in your belly.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
And that was the thing that got my attention.
Yeah.
Because this has to have some realness to it, because nobody knows I'm pregnant. And I'm going to tell you the other thing that made me eventually quickly settle into the word that God had given me. I was actually doing an overtime shift. I was not even supposed to be there.
Wow.
I wasn't even supposed to be working that particular shift. So here was, I'm working the shift that I wasn't supposed to be. He's telling me something that nobody at this point knows. And that's what made me settle into the word. And so then the journey, like you said, another piece of the journey begins. Like, okay, well, I'm thinking singing, still not thinking about a prophet.
Wow.
But then but the word was about my son, was that he was going to be a prophet. So God dealt with me in a dream, and he told me, well, prophets beget prophets.
Wow.
So if he's a prophet, then that makes you a prophet.
Yes. Yes.
And so then that would begin to be another layer as well.
Wow. Wow. So so in the book, there's a chapter that talks about self-sabotage. And it isn't that purpose doesn't speak to us. Isn't that God isn't speaking to us now about what our life shall be. And the reason why he created us is that we don't accept it, because we normalize life. This is who I am. This is who my parents are. And this is new to me. And so we know that there's going to be some great things that come through our mind, but do we pick them up and accept it? And so this is an amazing story that a man came along and really sparked what was already placed inside of you and start to bring that to recognition. And there's a lot of individuals that will reject who I know that I am. It's not that we don't know who we are. It's we know who we are, but because it's not unfamiliar and because it's unknown, we reject it. And so I want you to finish on with this story with your calling, because it sounds like a progression in your life where the calling in your life becomes more and more clear to you. And so there was a word of knowledge about the son being in your belly that made you grab hold of this word and say that this is real. But I'm assuming that wasn't the end of it. There was more to it, you accepting your calling. And so talk about that. Was it an obvious choice? And now you have received this word. Was it obvious, and you just begin to operate right then and begin to morph into this new person? Or is this something that you stumbled upon over time?
Well, I won't say I stumbled. I got in my notes right here. I say, ooh, it wasn't a stumble. It was a hard fall. Loud Jesus. It was a
Yeah.
hard fall.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a stumble. And I wish I could tell you that I stumbled upon it, but it was actually a hard fall.
Mm.
Tim, I want to tell you, and for those who are viewing this, that God spoke to me about my voice being divinely used. He spoke to me about having the honor of birthing. I didn't even know that it was an honor to birth a prophet at the time. I'm like, whatever, because this is my third child. So I'm like, whatever. And it was my third child out of wedlock.
Mm.
And so I want to speak to those today to tell you that, God will speak to you about your destiny in your mess. And speak to you about your destiny right where you are. So guess what? So now he's speaking to you about your destiny in the club, in the trap house. I have been, it's so amazing because that son that I have now is 21 years old. I had just not too many weeks prior, or not a couple of months ago, had just gotten off of the abortion table from having an abortion from a married man.
Mm. Wow.
And then God come talking about he want to use me.
Yeah.
And so when I began to, after years later, and I thought about that prophetic word, because I sometimes do, and I think about that, and I think about the state of mind I was in emotionally and mentally. I think about where I was at physically. And God came and delivered that to me, and delivered that promise to me, a promise of victory, a promise of honor. And he came and delivered. So, you're right, Tim, to come tell a chick on her third baby, just had an abortion from a married man. And I'm going to tell you, and I was bold at the time because he was working at the jail and the wife was working at the jail.
Mm. Wow.
So listen.
Wow.
So it was really something.
Yeah.
So, you're looking at God coming and speaking that level of word into my life. And so once I got through that piece, I had my son, and I decided that, what, I am going to really, and I decided that I am going to try this thing with God. I relapsed here and there. I would go hard for God, and then I stop, and then I want to go club, and then I want to thug, and then I want to do stuff, and live all kind of ungodly ways. And so it was a hit or miss. It was a challenge. It was a hit or miss. It was a challenge. It was those things. And so so for me, it was a hard fall. I do believe some people kind of stumble into it. They do. But for me, it was like a hard fall into it. And I didn't have, I wish I did. I wish I had somebody who had written the book Absurd. I wish I had a Tim Campbell in my life, or some people that have come along to my life now. But at that time, I didn't have that. I didn't have the coaching. Coaching wasn't popular then. Mentoring wasn't popular then. Right. So I didn't have that. So it was a hard fall, and God really had to deal with me himself for a long time.
Well, and it's Prophetess Latonya, your story is amazing. And one of the things that comes to mind is, as you're going through these experiences with life, you're juggling your purpose. You're juggling your destiny and what's going on. And it's whether you let it fall or do you pick it up. And so one of the things with your experience is that you didn't allow self-doubt to come in, or maybe you did, but it didn't overcome you. And that's one of the chapters in the book is it deals with self-doubt, is that it's what Moses said at the burning bush: who am I that you should send me? When God says that this is your destiny, the experience of your past, everything that you've been through, is not indicative of where you're going. So speak to the self-doubt. How did you overcome the self-doubt, as well as other obstacles that came into your life? How did you deal with these things as you're juggling destiny?
Well, one of the things that, I would like to interject, because you brought up Moses, and I do want to bring up Joseph, because we all remember Joseph in the Bible. Joseph had the dream. Yeah. Joseph had, the dream about the sun and the moon, and the stars were bound to him. So we know the sun represents his father and the moon represents the mother.
Yeah.
The stars represent the brothers that were around him, and they're gonna bow. You're gonna bow to me.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't get with that. They could not receive that. And what I want to say, Tim, is that dreams have a channel. They have a process. They have a journey that they take to becoming a vision.
Wow.
And so when you look at that place from going to a dream to a vision, it truly is a journey. And so one of the things when we look at a dream, when I have a dream, when God gives me a dream, the purpose of the dream, it is every dream is a reconciler. The Greek definition of dream means to reconcile.
Wow.
The Greek definition of dream means a healer of soul.
Wow.
So that means, Tim, you had this book, Absurd. It was a dream at first.
Yeah.
But now it's coming into a place of where it's a reality now. That dream is now going to be a reconciler of souls.
Wow. Wow.
It's now a reconciler of souls. So now when you look at Joseph, that dream had a process to become a vision. And the first thing that a dream does is it brings distress, because you're talking about the obstacles. So you got to overcome the distress. And oftentimes, not only do you have to overcome your distress, the intrinsic distress, you got to overcome everybody else's distress that they have about your dream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then so you go from distress, then we talked about it earlier, then you have to go to the interpretation of the dream.
Wow.
Because remember, I said when he prophesied to me about my voice was going to be what took care of me, I immediately thought singing. I didn't think prophesying. I never thought in a million years I would be preaching. I never thought in a million years I would be, just about a month ago speaking in front of the capacity of 3,000 people. I didn't see that then. So then now that dream has to incubate, because now there has to be an interpretation.
Wow.
And then the next thing goes into now there's revelation.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about the purpose, which as you're going through your book, it seems like everybody, you guys, you're going to get a revelation about your purpose in this book. If you don't, y'all call me, inbox me and say it didn't happen for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna prophesy over this man book. I promise you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to get a revelation. So you go from distress to interpretation, you go to revelation, but then there has to be a right response. And you talk about that a lot. You talk about the right response. If you don't have a right perspective, you can't have a right response.
Right.
And that revelation deals with perspective. You have to have a response. And then finally we get to a place of manifestation. Like, you've written the book, things are happening for me. The manifestation is for us, but the actualization is for the people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so the obstacles that I had to overcome, and I'm going to speed everybody up for sake of time to present day. God called me, Tim, to come off of my job. He had called me to come off my job before, but I was like, listen, when you make 50, 60K a year, bump that. I ain't got time to come off nobody's job, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I'm doing my own thing. So I didn't do it. So the end of 2013, the end of 2012, God said, I want you to come off your job. Do not let December 31st of 2013 come and you're still working these people's job.
Wow. I
said, well, you know what? I'm the breadwinner of my house, of our home. So if that is the case, you're going to have to speak to my husband, and I'm not going to say nothing to you. Yeah. My husband came to me, Tim, within less than 24 hours and said, God told me I have to get you off of this job next year.
Wow.
So what we did was, when you start talking about the obstacles and how we overcame them, we created an exit plan. And so with that exit plan, we started doing certain things where we had to really look at, I was carrying the insurance, simple things. Yeah. That had to be transferred. I was carrying a life insurance, simple things that had to be taken care of. 401k, retirement. We had to look at all of those different things because I was the one that was the breadwinner, and I was the one that was carrying the benefits. So we had to look at those things. Exit plan. I went and I would work 7 days a week, Tim, because I would work through an agency so I could become established. So even though I was coming off of a job full time, I could still go work somewhere per diem here and there just for us to be able to, maintain if needed to be. So it's so many different components that went into that exit plan. When I finally, my last day was October 31st of 2013. And so many different things went into that. So it was the exit plan that we had to create, but we had a flaw. We didn't create an entry plan. We didn't create an entry plan to come into the new place.
Wow.
The obstacle that I incurred was while I was doing all of that, I knew that I was going to be doing business. So I should have went and got a business coach.
Yeah.
While I was still working and I could afford to pay for the business coach without struggling to pay for it.
Yeah.
I should have gone and did that. But I did not. I just thought, you know what, how hard could it be?
Yeah.
It's the business coaching stuff. What in the world? So I realized, after about 2 or 3 years, and I would say this today in all transparency, Tim, that we have to understand that sometimes even in the process of the dream, I'm 5 years out. And really, I think I left my job making not, in this day and age, they don't even really, this little number don't mean nothing anymore. But I left, I think, making like 55K somewhere in there. But the thing of it is, I'm out 5 years from being off my secular job, and I have yet to replace my income.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I want for everybody to understand when you're going from the dream to the vision. My house has been in foreclosure. I've almost lost my house several times over the 5 years, but God still graced and God provided. It's been stressful on my marriage, the financial end of it. The vision is heavy. And let me tell you something about the vision and the dream. It will press out everything.
Yeah.
Everything that shouldn't be attached to you, everything that God doesn't want in your life, every person, whatever the case may be, the thing is so heavy.
Yes.
That it's the kind of it, the glory, because God has glory, but we also have a glory that God reps man in as well.
Yeah.
And so that thing is so heavy that it presses out everything. And so that was how we overcame the main obstacle. Was we created an exit plan, but we forgot to create the entry plan. And so that's what we have to do, y'all. Make sure you create an entry plan to get into the new dimension.
I can attest to that so much. There's so much meat in what you just described, your experience. And I've been through that experience as well. I remember the day that God told me, and everything was going well at the job. And he said, get up and leave. And I couldn't understand it. And so I said, well, if you tell me to leave, then I'll leave. And it was confirmed. So I got up, put in my notice and left. And I would have thought that everything would have went right. And in that time, it was one of the most stressful pieces. And we talk about purpose, we talk about destiny. What we don't talk about, and I'm so glad you did, what we don't talk about is the route to it. Everything that you go through, paying the bills and having a consistent paycheck and healthcare and being able to have more ideas than you have funding, and being able there is an experience when you chase your purpose. There's an experience in how I trust God. You can trust God when everything is going right. But if you go on a journey where it's a faith walk, where you can't see where the next meal is coming from, or how this is going to get paid, or how this is going to work, and you have others depending on you to make it, you're going to make it happen, Tim. You're going to make it happen. We're depending on you. We're counting you at your word, and you don't have a clue of how it's going to happen. And you're trusting. There's another level of trusting God when you're in that journey. And so I'm so glad you mentioned that as you pursue purpose, there is a part where your faith grows, where your character becomes established, where what you said you are and who you said you are will be tested. It will be called. In my personal business, I've taught a lot of entrepreneurs in the marketplace. And I've told them that God told me that you have, these seats are worth millions of dollars. that your life will be changed. And what I come to note is that they skip from the journey part and they jump all the way into manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
And they forget the piece of the sacrifice in between, the sacrifices that they have to make in between, the character building, all of those things that are intrinsic to the journey, that you can't just go straight to the manifestation. And the thing about the reason why I think this is the time for the book now, is because it's a timing thing. It is God told you who you were a long time ago, but now we're here at manifestation season. That means that everything that you've been through, everything that you suffered through, it was for a reason. Well, we didn't understand that starting out. We understand it now, but we didn't understand it then. So I appreciate you saying all of what you're saying. One of the things that I want to come back to is I think that's important is you have to be compelled to go on this journey.
Yes.
And it has to be a passion for you. So I'm looking behind you. You got your vision for all of these different ideas behind you. And you mentioned some of the struggles that you've went through, that you're currently going through. What compels you to keep going on, to keep pursuing purpose when life and voices and all these different things are trying to push you in a different direction?
Tim, the thing that compels me the most, and they're interchangeable, is leaving a legacy for my children.
Yeah.
Because there really wasn't a legacy left for me. And I don't say that in a derogatory way. I just believe that my parents, because both of my parents are still living now. My mother has Alzheimer's. And my father, but I think they grew up in the country and they grew up with hard parents, and their parents grew up with hard parents down in Alabama, segregation, racism. So the thing of it is that I don't believe they knew how to pass on legacy.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a template for how to pass on legacy.
Yeah.
The Bible says, I think it's in Psalms 121 and 121 and 118 says that we praise God for generations that are yet to come.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was to create a legacy for my children and to provide an inheritance for them. And that's what keeps me going. Even when my house would be going through foreclosure, and I'd be like, forget this. My house is like, not too big. It's like 3,000 square foot, but it's a lot of square footage for now that it's just me, my husband, and one daughter. And then I have my mom here, but at one time I had 4 kids here. And I just like, forget it. I can just downsize or whatever the case may be. But I thought about, I bought this house for my kids. I bought this house because I wanted to have legacy. I wanted to be able to have an income property that if one of them got stuck financially or one of them ever needed somewhere to stay, my mind was thinking about that. I go hard also to give them a legacy of work ethic, to give them a legacy of how to make it happen. Tim, all of my sermons, all of my notes, my journals, I keep those things, and I'm actually going to go put them in a safe deposit box because I want for them to be able, when I'm gone, or when I'm older, I want for them to be able to go back and look at those journals and be like, okay, she was going through this and this is how she handled that. Yeah. This happened and this is how she handled that. Because you said something very pivotal about your writing of your book or even just releasing it. It is the Kairos timing. Yeah. We do have to move in Kairos, that Kairos moment. Every day is Chronos, but then we have those moments that things line up and we walk into Kairos. And so you're at a place where you use your Chronos time as preparation time. Yeah. You prepare, you prepare the way. And so that's what I want to leave a legacy for them. I would like to say this because you were talking about how you speak to some of your clients and those people that you have connections with and stuff. And one of the things with that, Tim, is that people don't understand that my largest, I preach, I get honorariums, no shame in that, but my largest honorariums did not come from the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My husband and I, at one time, we would go and do community work, and we would get called in to do workshops and retreats for different community organizations.
Yeah.
And one of the things that would happen is, my husband and I could get a $1,500 check,
Mm-hmm.
and for speaking 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to expand everyone's purpose as well. That there are people outside of the church,
Yeah. Yeah.
in the community, that's willing to pay you a $1,500 honorarium, or pay you a $5,000 honorarium for speaking for 30, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and you chuck up your deuces and you're gone. No strings attached. You don't have to hear about your bad theology. You don't have to hear about, oh, you a prophet lie. You don't have to hear about any of that. You do your PowerPoint and you go on about your business. You don't have to hear about that. And I want to expand everybody's purpose and expand the train of thought about their purpose. I remember in 2005, when my husband had started out, we had a 501c3 called Sowing Seeds International, and I was talking about ministry, and talk about ministry. And at that time, 2005, I thought, ministry was to preach, because I love to preach, and it was the preaching. And my husband said, "That's not ministry."
Yeah.
He said, "That's not ministry."
Yeah.
He said, "Ministry is this. You got to change your concept and your perception." So I challenge everybody, when reading this book, as you're reading it, that you challenge your perception and you redefine what you think ministry is, and you redefine what you think your assignment is. Because if you can redefine ministry and you can redefine really what you think your assignment is, I think you will, as Tim puts it, you'll stumble into listen, you'll stumble into purpose. You won't do what I did, hard fall, but you'll stumble into it when you define it, and when you put some different definitions on what ministry is and what your assignment is in the kingdom. I think it'll change for you when you look at, and I think a new compelling will come.
Yeah,
a new compelling, because you know what? If it's all about money.
Yeah.
You could buy your own house. You could buy your own car. You don't even need faith for that.
Yeah.
You can, but it's really about leaving. It's about, Tim, it's about things that are intangible.
Yeah. It really is.
It's about things that it is really about those things that are intangible. Leaving a legacy for those things. Wisdom is intangible. Knowledge is intangible. All of those, those things are intangible that we leave. So that's what compels me, leaving a legacy for my children, because one wasn't left for me, and so that's what that's what keeps me going.
Right, that's good. And I'm full off of as you're talking. There's so much confirmation in what you're talking about. One of the things that compelled me to be an author and to write books was legacy. It wasn't about, I want other people to benefit from the book, but long after I'm gone, there is going to be children that are of my seed, of my bloodline, that they're going to say, this is our philosophy. Mm-hmm. This is our mindset concerning how we govern life. And without the world telling them that, we establish that in our bloodlines. We establish how we live now will speak long after we're gone. And it's about the impact. It's about the influence that we carry. So I appreciate you saying that. And, for so long, just to pick up on the last part of what you were saying, is for so long, there was this entrepreneurial gift, this gift of influence, this gift of leadership that was inside of me that didn't fit inside of the church, wasn't affirmed inside of the church. And so I would pray that, because I thought I was being rebellious, I would actually pray that he would remove this gift from me, because me pursuing it bumped my head so many times, and I couldn't understand it. And so, but it never left. I would wake up wanting to think about business, influence, leadership, and so it never would leave me. And now, in recent years, I began to understand that God placed this in me for a reason. that it's not just about who I am in the church, but outside of the church, there's impact. We can be a light to the world outside of the church. There is greater ministry outside of the church. And if we look at Jesus' ministry, it was outside of the church. Nations came out to his borders because he preached liberation to individuals that were unchurched, that never heard the good news. And so we have a responsibility to do that. It's the impact, the influence of our life, and picking that up, understanding it, and operating in our purpose. That's good. One last question. Actually, I got two last questions for you. This next one, people are listening to us now that says, I have purpose, and this is what I'm supposed to do. And I know this is what I'm supposed to do. You and I know that there will be roadblocks that pop up for these individuals. What are some specific roadblocks that they should be looking out for, and how do they overcome those?
Some specific roadblocks that you can, you have purpose, that the purpose is on the inside of you. I think one of the most specific roadblocks that you're going to always have, I like the franchise Rocky. And so I like what they did with reinventing Rocky with Creed. And so Sylvester Stallone, I think it's in Creed, where they're in the mirror and they're at the boxing place, and he tells him, he says, look in the mirror. And he says, you see that person right there? He says, that's the person that you have to fight against. He says, that's the person that nobody else matters. And I think that's what you have to understand. The roadblock number one is comparison. And I don't care what anybody says, nobody is exempt from it. Yeah. Nobody is exempt from, comparison. Social media is a beast with putting us in those positions of, scrolling down our timelines. And it's a young man named Mark Coley. He's a millennial, and he really freed me earlier, we just in February, but he made a statement. He says, don't let that January 1st date cause you to release a premature product and an unfinished service.
Oh, wow.
Because what happens is, and even from the prophetic side of my spiritual side, it's usually like all these prophets, they're releasing these words, they got something deep to say. And I'm at the beginning of the year, I'm sitting here like, well, I ain't got a word, I ain't,
yeah.
I'm not necessarily, I don't have a word, but it's like, this seems like they got so much profound stuff to say. You got people that are launching out stuff, and they're doing things, and they're doing all of this stuff. And it was really hard for me this year, because here it was, I was still excavating, and I was still digging up stuff. I'm still, everybody else is moving forward. I'm in the process of going through divorce. Everybody's moving forward. I'm in a place where, my daughter is getting married, and my son is in school. I've never been in this place before where I couldn't do anything for my children. I've never been in this place before. And so, like you talked about it earlier, it was the faith thing. It was the leap of faith. And so the big roadblock is yourself. The biggest roadblock is yourself, and you have to change your vocabulary. You have to change the definitions. You have to change how you see that person in the mirror. And if you could, because let me tell you something, I think what I like about your book is it comes from a kingdom perspective. Yeah. Meeting somebody in the kingdom that would change their life forever. And so when you come into the place of even a kingdom mindset, people in the kingdom don't compare themselves.
Yeah.
And when you come into the place of a kingdom, it is an insult for anything in a king's realm, in a king's dimension, in a king's kingdom not to prosper.
Yeah.
So anytime we begin to compare ourselves, anytime, because comparison, and let me tell you something, y'all not gonna like this, but comparison is a seed of pride.
Yeah. Yeah.
Comparison has to do with pride, because when I compare myself, that means that God didn't get it right.
Right. Wow.
That means some kind of way he missed the mark with me.
Yeah.
When I'm in a place where I don't like me, that means God he didn't get it right.
Yeah.
His omnipotent self, him knowing all things.
Yeah.
he didn't release me in the right time.
Wow.
I know what my history is. I know what I've gone through. I know what I'm going through right now.
Yeah.
But in his omnipotence, he still saw all of that. It did not change the fact that he still wanted me to launch Resurgent when I'm launching it. He wanted me to launch off I4. He wanted me to write these ebooks. He wanted this very wall to be here where it is. Doesn't change the fact, Tim, no matter what you went through, that absurd, because I'm sure this wasn't easy peasy. So with launching, we still have to give birth. We still have to birth through adversity, no matter, if you got to be on bed rest, if you got to have a certain diet, whatever the case may be, God is still going to put you in a position to give birth. So if I was going to say anything, a specific roadblock, you have to get out of your own head.
Yeah.
It's kind of like quarterback thinking. You threw an interception. So what? We still got 3 more quarters to go.
Right.
If you're gonna stay in your head that you threw an interception, you'll never throw the ball again.
Wow.
You'll never get back in the game. You'll never perform at your optimum if you don't get to the place where you think like a quarterback.
Wow.
You gotta keep sending those missiles, lobbing them, whatever they do. You gotta keep doing it. So
that's good. When you were speaking, I started to think about the word cloud, and there's a piece of staying still and knowing when to stay still, knowing when to move, and it all deals with purpose. There's a meaning behind my movement, my silence, my action. It all deals with purpose. Purpose isn't just when you're moving, it's when you're standing still.
Yes.
And just as Israel followed the cloud, because the glory was in the cloud, the presence of God was in the cloud. But the thing about the cloud is sometimes it would stand still, which means that I can't go. Sometimes it would move, which means I have to move. And I want the glory. Purpose is about the reason why it is associated with the kingdom, because there is a leader in the kingdom, and that's the king. And sometimes the king is going to, that's inside of you, is going to say, it's time to move with this idea. Sometimes it's going to say, and so your heart has to be in a place where, and I think it fits in line with what you're saying, your heart has to be in a place where I'm okay to move. I'm okay to stand still. I'm okay to be in a moment where it's a planning season. I'm okay with that. When it's time to go, I'm going to go. If I am full of pride and I'm looking at the next person and they're moving, and I say, well, I should be moving, or they're operating in this, I should be operating in this, then I've left my purpose and I tapped into a weight that is too heavy for me to carry. Destruction is ahead of that. I got to step back into my place and into alignment with where God has me, and say, do you want me to stand still? Do you want me to organize? Do you want me to plan? There were some times where I had to say, what is the lack that I'm experiencing in life? What is it telling me? What are you teaching me for that next level? I'm so glad that God didn't give me millions of dollars 10 years ago, because I would have been messed up in that season. The plan that God has for you is perfect. And so as you're moving forward, sometimes what will seem as a roadblock is only for your safety.
Yes. Sometimes
there is things that He allowed to pass, people to drop off out of your life, because He's saying, if you take this individual with you, you'll never achieve your purpose. You'll never reach your true potential, your true destiny. I got to allow these things to fall off. That was something I had to understand with purpose. Purpose speaks about every realm that you're going to go through in life, every aspect of your life, from your job situation, your physical health, your spiritual health, your mental health. It all deals with purpose and destiny and God aligning where you're going. Last question for you, because this has been a good interview. Someone is listening right now and they're saying, why me? Why would I be the one that would do this specific thing? They don't have the affirmation from their leaders that you're called to do this. They don't have the background. They don't have, there's nothing in their life saying that they should be moving in this direction. But God is calling them and saying that it's your time. I want you to do this. You are this. You are a prophet to the nations. You have an apostolic anointing. You are going to be a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur that funds the kingdom. And these are absurd ideas to individuals. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, why me? How could I do this? What would you say to that individual?
The first thing that I would say when we say, why not me? I would say, why not you? And I think you have to look at, why not you? Why can it not be you? And then I believe you have to also, for me, I had to look at why not you? Because I'm gonna tell you what people are really saying, Tim, when they're saying why me. Sometimes they're not. Most of the time, we're not necessarily saying why me. Like, why have you chosen me for such a great work? What people are really looking at is why me? Why have I been chosen to suffer? Mm-hmm. Because see, when you get chosen to be, like with you, to be chosen to be an apostle in the marketplace, to be a sounding board as a man of God in the marketplace, that's going to come with the pressure. Mm. That's going to come with the pressure. It's going to come with a certain type of warfare. So this is what I'm learning, that when people are saying why me, it's not necessarily that they saying why me to, because who says why me to millions? Mm-hmm. Who says why me to fame? Who says why me to writing books? Yeah. Who says why me to anything that would be of elevation? Who says why me to anything that's of greatness? What we're really saying is, why me? Why I got to suffer? Why? Because I don't want to suffer this. Because the reality of it is that if we could take, if I could, do what God has called me to do without the warfare, there would never have been a why me. Tim, it used to be times where I would literally lay on the side of my bed and my husband would laugh at me so bad. And I would go through this every weekend, and I would lay on the side of my bed and I would get on the floor. I would be on my knees crying. I'd be prostrate and I'd be like, God, I don't want this. I don't want your anointing. I don't want this. I don't want the call. I don't want this. And I'm talking about crying but what I was saying was I didn't want the warfare. Yeah. I didn't want the warfare for me. I didn't want it for my kids. I didn't want it for my household. I didn't want the pressure. I didn't want any of that. Wow. So the reality of it is that why not you? You have to understand that you are built for this. Yes. You have to understand that you, everything that you've encountered, if you're not dead yet, then God kept you alive for it right now. If you ain't dead, because He God. Yeah. If you're not dead, Tim, I'm a woman who I've had 9+ abortions. I stopped counting at the 9th one. I could have bled out at any time during any one of those abortions. I could have died from infection. I could have died from sepsis. I was a dope boy girlfriend driving his car with tinted windows. I could have been killed from mistaken identity at any given time. Yeah. But God saw fit to make sure that on this day that I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting here in purpose. Wow. So you have to look at, why not you? And yes, you are built. This is light affliction. The Bible says, oh, but for this light affliction. Yeah. So what we're going through is light affliction. And this is why I'm going to tell you why me. And this last season, Tim, I said the same thing. I'm going to be honest. And right before I got on with you, I'm writing this ebook. And one of the things that came up to me, this was just today. Many of us, Tim, and this is the spiritual component of this, we go through spiritual warfare, Tim. We speak in tongues, and we fast, and we pray, and we do all of these things. And you know what? And we come out with nothing. Sometimes we might defeat the enemy, but we don't come out with intellectual property. We don't come out with any inventions. Yeah. We don't come out, because our biggest concern is coming out with a car. Yeah. Our biggest interest is coming out with a house. Yeah. But you said something very key, that when you leave this earth, you will have things, legacy that is circulating in this earth long after you're gone. Yeah. And that is what we're fighting for. When you're fasting, when you're praying, when you're hemomysian and you're ricocheting in tongues and you're doing all of that stuff, we are fighting for the things that when we leave this earth, they keep circulating. So that is why you. That's why it's time out to stop going through all of these intense warfare battles with the enemy, and we're not coming out with the spoils, and we're not coming out with the booty. We're not coming out with when you go through warfare, God is wanting to, you talked about preparation.
Yeah.
Because prematurity is another roadblock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Prematurity a lot of times happens is when we don't prepare. Now, or we don't prepare extensively enough because we said don't take all that.
Wow.
And so why you? Because your generations after you are depending on it. Why you? Because you got to come out of this with something. We can't keep coming out empty-handed.
Yeah.
We can't keep coming out empty-handed with nothing, and all we got is a house, and all we got is a car, and that stuff is nice, but we just can't keep coming out empty-handed. So why you? So that you can come out, with the things of God in your spirit, in your belly, and things in your hand. Because I do believe God wants you to have stuff. I don't think he wants your little life to be ugly. I don't think he wants you to live in an ugly house. I don't think he wants you to drive an ugly car. I don't think he wants you to do all that. But you gotta, there's an eternal curriculum.
Yeah.
As an eternal curriculum. And what I mean by that is that sometimes we get so focused, we get focused on him, but see, we have an eternal curriculum that also prepares us for when we go into glory. And so that's a whole nother day. But that's what I would tell you. Why me? Why not you?
Wow.
Why not be the one to be prosperous? Why not be the one to be blessed? Why not be the one that you leave a legacy for your family? Why not? Why? Because let me tell you something. Warfare is going to come regardless.
Yeah.
It's going to come regardless.
Right.
There are deals that are being made over your head every day. If you don't know, ask Job.
Yeah.
And when you talk about identity, Satan has never lost his identity.
Yeah.
The Bible says that, and God, he called for the sons of God. Satan showed up. Why are you here? You called for the sons of God?
Yeah.
I'm one.
Yeah.
He never forgot who his father was, even though he had been cast out.
Wow.
And knew that he had no potential of being in that position where he was, but he still remembered his identity. And if he can remember his identity, we can surely remember our identity. Why me? When we say why me, a lot of times it's because, like you said, we really don't know who we are.
Right.
So this book is going to help you observe. It's going to help you answer that question, why me? I believe it's going to do that.
Wow, that is good. That is good. We're gonna go replay this over and over again because there's a lot of nuggets there. And when you were talking, what I saw was what is absurd is to be praying, to be going to church faithfully, to be serving, to do all of this with no expectation of manifestation. There is no place in the Bible where they would pray or where they would encounter the prophetic. Even David asked, should I pray to God and ask, should I go up? And God said, go up. Why? Because you will overcome them. There is a result in our position. There's a result for why we pray, who we are. There is such an authority there that we live in this life way beneath our potential, There's things that we could be birthing. There is things that we could be unlocking. One of the things that God put on my heart is regions to experience, to have this place of, I'm in Minnesota, to practice, to hone in on my skill in Minnesota, but there is regions that are going to be unlocked. Mm-hmm. And so before I would reject that because I haven't mastered Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So I would reject, how could I travel to regions if I haven't locked the region that I'm in? And what God is saying is that is the arrogance, that is the pride, because you're leaning to your own power and you haven't recognized the power that is within you. You haven't recognized who I am as a creator. All of the gifts that God has, all of the power that God has can do so much more than just hold down a job, can do so much more than just attending to church on Sundays. It can do so much more than just a few minutes of prayer and nothing happens. There is more to life for the believer for the kingdom-minded citizen, there's more to life than what we've been living. And we've been accepting a false gospel that says that this is enough, while the world is surpassing the church, while the world is surpassing the kingdom in wisdom and knowledge. That is the children's bread. But because God doesn't repent regarding his principles and how he created the earth, whoever picks it up can operate in it. And so what you're saying is that it's no longer are we going to pray and not expect the manifestation to come. If I'm going to go through this warfare, then on the other side of this, I expect victory. I expect to obtain exactly what I went after. And so that's the season that we're in. God is revealing that to individuals, and he's taking the cover off of those that really believe in him. There's going to be a separation where those that really believe in him and believe in his word will begin to operate. And you'll be able to tell the ones that don't. You'll be able to tell the ones because they will pray and nothing will manifest. I keep hearing this word, Ichabod. Ichabod was, Phineas had a son, and they called him Ichabod because the glory of the Lord had left Israel. That's what the name Ichabod means. The glory of the Lord has left. What that means is we're now unprotected. What we once knew as an abundant life is no more. Life now has its way with us because the glory of the Lord has left. The good news of the gospel is that the glory has now come back. The glory is now in us. And so now we expect manifestation. Even Jesus said there will be signs and wonders. John said, are you him or do we look for another? Jesus said, tell him that you see the blind see, that the deaf hear, that the dead are raised. There's manifestation when the kingdom is upon you. And so this is a season of manifestation now. We have to manifest what God is doing. And so that's the purpose of the book. That we're walking into an absurd season. What seemed impossible is now possible. And we got to believe that. So I appreciate everything that you're saying. There's been so much confirmation and what you're saying. Tell us this, Prophetess Latonya, where can we work if individuals want to be connected with you or find you or follow your ministry and your business? Where can they find you at?
Actually, they can find us. I want to interject something really quickly, and I know we're pressed for time. But you made a statement about regions, opening up regions. You're in Minnesota, and you're like, well, I have yet to master Minnesota. I want to encourage you today with something, and I want to encourage others that are like you, even myself, who we're like that. I need to master this particular area or zone. One of the things we have to remember is that there was a certain city, there was a certain place that Jesus could not perform miracles because they did not believe.
Yeah.
And so as encouragement, sometimes certain places are resistant, even where you live are resistant. And then sometimes you have to go outside of that. And then it's amazing that they'll see you in another state. They'll see you in another place. And then they're like, oh, wow, that's who that is, or that's who she is, or that's who he is. And then now they come into a place of being more receptive with who you are, even though you are from among them. It's, a lot of times there's so much disrespect that comes from when you come from among people.
Yeah.
And that can be very challenging as well. So I want to encourage you, Tim, and those who are like, Acts 1:8 does give a template about how we spread out. First we start at home, and then we start in the community, we go regionally, and then we do go nationally, and that's Acts 1:8.
Yeah.
So how can you find me? How can you find Latonya? I do have a website right now. It is simplyLatonya.com. So I know that once they do the new website, they're still going to make sure everything links together. So if you go to simplyLatonya.com, it's up and you'll be able to find me. My wellness business is Joules, JOULES, wellness.com. Nope, .org, because I did that in .org.
Yeah.
So that's how you can, that's my two websites. And then I'm on Facebook as well. Joules is on Facebook. Simply Latonya is on Facebook. And Joules is on Instagram. I'm Joules. I've been changing so much stuff. I should have wrote this down, right? Should have been better prepared. But anyway, so I'm on IG as Jules Wellness because I used to be something else and I finally changed it to that. So I'm on IG as Jules Wellness.
Okay.
And that's how you can get in contact with me. To get all that stuff, just buy the book from Tim and then ask him who I am. That's how you do that. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate all your time. It's been impactful. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments and people reaching out. You've unpacked a lot of different things in a short period of time. And I know there's more. So I appreciate your time. I know that you're a busy woman and got a lot of things going. So I appreciate the time that you spent with us here.
Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear the praise reports and everything from this book going out into the marketplace, the jails. I told y'all it's going to be the dope boys going to be standing up with their dime bags reading the book. I promise you. So I'm excited about it just going from transcending all ages and all generations and from white collar to blue collar. And I prophesy that over to you, Tim. I prophesy your book into a place, I prophesy your book into a place of abundance. I prophesy this to a place of prosperity, and that everything that that your hands touch, not just this book, but even the things that you are yet to reveal for the remainder of this year, that the book is just the iceberg of the things that are beneath. So we know that this book is just a launching pad, that it is just a calling card for you. So Lord, I just thank you for what you're doing in the earth, and we thank you for your obedience as being a king in the earth, as being a king. God says you are a king in the earth. I hope that wasn't churchy, but I just,
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. All right. Well, I appreciate you, and look forward to seeing some great things coming out of your corner of the world.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Latonya.